Welcome back everyone. Today we're going to do DAX functions, which is a very common and important part of Power BI. So DAX stands for Data Analysis Expression. It's a tool that allows us to do complex calculations and analyze beyond what we would do on spreadsheets. So for example, let's just look here. Here we have the total table view of everything, and here's everything that we have. So first of all, we have to go and create a new measure here. So if we click on the new measure, so it will create a new measure, a new formula table for everything that we need. For example, I need to know the total amount of restaurants. So I'll just, if I press on this and write total restaurants, now I can get, for example, the way to create, know the total amount is through the function count, which we had in Excel. So if I count the total, for example, this shows us from which table we have to take the answer. So here we can see if we go to the restaurant ID. So let's see what we have. Zomato. Let's give a third bracket. Here you go. So Zomato restaurant ID, that will show us all of the restaurant IDs that there are. So if I count the total amount of it, I'll get the total restaurants there. And just click on it and done. Here you can see there's a measure for the total restaurants. We can also do this in our Power Query editor, and it's the same thing. So now that we're done with this one, let's create more of them. So I need to know the total amount of cities that were used in this data sheet. So if I write just total cities, now here we're going to be using distinct count because a restaurant can appear in, I mean, one city can have multiple restaurants. So we're going to be using a distinct count to get unique restaurant names. So if I write just distinct count, then I'll just have to use Zomato city and I'll get the actual value of it. And then let's create another measure. For example, let's see the total cuisines we have. For example, if we go to the table view, so here we have all the different items in our data. So for example, whether it has online delivery, whether it has table booking. For example, we have a table booking for one and no and yes, so we'll just find for that. Same with delivery. Let's see if there is any with yes. So that we have, so we can always create the data card or graph for anything that shows us is are they delivering or are they not delivering. Let's just click on this and we'll filter the data. Let's just click on this and I'll filter data where we have the total values, aggregate rating, and we will change the rating later on. Okay, so if we go back, let's create another measure for the total cuisines we have. Let's do this with total cuisines. We'll use distinct count again because the cuisine can be done twice. Zomato. So here's the cuisines, and then we are done with that. You can see that we are creating each every time. Let's just correct this one. Total cuisines. Let's get the total votes too. Model, new measure, total votes. Total votes. So to calculate the total votes, I have to add up all of the individuals one. So I'll just create a sum of the total vote numbers. We have a table for the vote one. Let's just go Zomato and then vote. Oh, sorry. So it's the vote one, and then we have a total vote. Now let's get we had one with a rating. So let's just create one that says the average rating, because we had individual rating for all of them. So we'll just get the average of it. Average, average Zomato, average rating. And here we have another one, average rating. Let's create another one. Average cost for, we had one for average cost for two. Sorry for that. Average cost for two. And this one we just have to write the average, then Zomato, and then average cost for two. For average cost for we have to take a different one for, let's just do two here. We could not use the same one because we already have a similar one for, like, we have average cost for two. So let's just change it to this. And here you can see. So let's move on to something a bit new, that is calculate. So what calculate basically is, it's just a modified filter context. It allows us to add another filter to an existing filter. So for example, we have to count the restaurants which have online delivery. So if we have to do that, let's just write here for restaurants with delivery. And now here we go calculate. Now we have to define the expression. So for example, we have to count it. So count the restaurants. So first of all, we have to count the restaurants. Uh, count the restaurant for which Zomato has online delivery. Again, Zomato has online delivery. We can find it here, and that will be equal to yes or no, whatever you need. We have to. This is a text, so we have to use the. mm, oh, sorry, I had to give a back parenthesis at the end, but it will create it on its own. So here we can see that it's already created. Let's just search it. We have restaurants with. Now if I use, for example, we have a card here. Here's card. So this shows us the total restaurants which have delivery with them. So that's the total amount, 2k or 2000. So we can just change the numerical later, but that is why we're using it. Or we can also use it to calculate which restaurants have it and create a bar graph or pie chart. So we'll do that later, but today is all about creating ones that creating those measures. So for example, here is that with delivery, I can just copy and paste it and create another which shows us which have no delivery. So I'll just with no delivery, and I'll just change this to no, and we're done. Similarly, I can do it with table booking. I can do it with delivering now, and so forth. So these are some of the basic functions we have to know, and I think that's about it. And the next class we will be learning about how to create visualizations for these measures.